outstanding player made. Right?
But it's even better that it happened that way.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, he was thinking, you know what he was thinking when he fell down? He was saying all kinds of words to himself and then just said, bow.
Not top 10. 100%.
Yeah.
Now top 10.
It's a ridiculous catch. So let's play a game called Is That Ridiculous with our Louis Riddick. Here we go, Louis. I got people, after watching what the Bears have done this offseason, beginning with the coach and all the offensive talent they've accumulated, I got people saying Caleb Williams is going to be an MVP candidate this season. Is that ridiculous?
No, that's not ridiculous. Look, I think starting with Ben Johnson and then moving to the work that they did in free agency with fortifying the offensive line, adding to the weaponry at the wide receiver position. Look, Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan, is a star. He's an absolute star. Luther Burden, look, we kind of forgot about him in the pre-draft run-up. This guy is a stud, too. To go along with Rome Odunze already and DJ Moore, this team is loaded. Caleb has no excuses. And you know what? I don't think he's looking for any. I think this kid is going to light the world on fire this year and really, once again, have people debating him and Jayden Daniels again.
Well, that's the interesting piece. See, that is a fascinating thing to say, and that's putting it out there and seeing what happens. Because my immediate reaction to this, I don't mean to skew towards the somewhat negative, but my immediate reaction was, okay, kid, now it's all you, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there are no. Last year they had every reason in the world why he didn't play well. Now he has every reason in the world to be the MVP of the league.
But that's exactly what Caleb Williams wants. This kid's never shied away from the spotlight, from being a five-star to wanting to start at Oklahoma when Spencer Rattler was the incumbent starter who was supposed to be a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
He knows it's all on him, and this is what Ryan Poles was supposed to do. When you draft Caleb Williams, you put the infrastructure around him to succeed. Last year, we thought it was in place. This year, we know it's in place.
Yeah, Ben Johnson at the beginning of that conversation, and then Colston Loveland and Luther Burden at the end. Okay, next one, staying in the division. Louis, if I said J.J. McCarthy is going to lead the Vikings back to the playoffs this season, is that ridiculous?
Not ridiculous at all. I'm a big-time believer in J.J. McCarthy. I'm a big-time believer in Kevin O'Connell. I'm a big-time believer in Josh McCown. And that triumvirate right there is enough for me to go ahead and say that J.J. McCarthy is going to be well on his way. As long as nothing goes wrong with that meniscus repair, I think he's going to be just fine. Look, they tried to fortify the interior of their offensive line in the draft with Donovan Jackson. They drafted the kid out of Maryland in the third round, Ty Felton. That's going to go along with what is already a stacked wide receiving core anyway. This is one of the most well-managed football teams, best-built coaching staffs in the NFL, and J.J. McCarthy is going to reap the benefits of that.
Oh, see, this isn't the question that we had planned, but it does make me think about it because you got Green Bay. I think they got better. You got the Lions, who are really good, but probably got worse losing their coaches. Bears get better. But who's the odd man out now?
But that's the thing. That's what makes this question such a difficult question to answer, because we know that the Minnesota Vikings have a great infrastructure. We've seen what Kevin O'Connell could do from a schematic and play calling standpoint, and we believe in J.J. McCarthy's talent. That's why he's a top 10 pick. But this is such a difficult division to win with Jordan Love in that division, with Jared Goff in that division, the Chicago Bears ascending. So it's going to be a difficult division to say this is the team that's the front runner or this is the team that's the odd man out.
Yeah. That's the one to me, because it's almost impossible for a division to get all four teams in it. It can happen. Obviously, there are that many wild cards. But with them cannibalizing each other, it's very hard to do.
What winds up being the differentiator most times, right, is attrition. It winds up being who has most of their guys available at the end of the year. And that's really what it's going to come down to, because the margin for error with these guys is going to be like slim to none from team to team.
And then the last one here from the ridiculous feature is the Steelers. So if someone says it has not happened on Mike Tomlin's watch, in fact, it hasn't happened since 2003, but the Steelers are finally going to have a losing season. Is that ridiculous?
No, it's not ridiculous, because, look, the division is getting better also. Okay, Baltimore's going to be there. Cincinnati's going to get the defense right. They retained all the primary key players on offense. In Cleveland, look, for as much as I disagree with some of the things that they do, with a lot of the things they do in Cleveland, they had a hell of a draft this year. And if they get their quarterback situation at least stabilized, they're going to be right there, too. And you know they give the Steelers a lot of problems.
Yep.
Okay? So now with Pittsburgh, what's happened there? How have they necessarily leveled up this football team, in particular on the offensive side of the ball? Well, maybe the offensive line will be healthier this year. We'll see what happens with the running game. But the quarterback position is where it all starts and where it all ends with them. And they haven't addressed it. Until Aaron comes in, and if he comes in, we're going to be sitting here having this discussion.
Yeah, if you're saying it right now today, absolutely. This is a year for the Pittsburgh Steelers to have the first losing season under Mike Tomlin, and I don't want that. I'm going to be honest. I want to get on here and talk about how great of a coaching job he's done, how he's coached above and beyond what that roster is, but you know it like I do, Lewis. At some point, the Roosters, whatever they say, whatever that saying is, like at some point, you're going to have to
come home to roost.
There you go.
The Roosters come home to roost. Or is it the chickens?
At some point, you're going to have to answer to not addressing the quarterback position in the way that allows you to compete.
Here's how they're going to do it. Aaron Rodgers, the last minute, is just going to come wheeling in the same way that we sometimes will just wheel people in the way we're wheeling in Joe Fortenbaugh.
This is nice.
They're just going to wheel in Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers, I'm telling you right now, is going to wind up playing better than people are suggesting.
This dude stays on TV now.
Here's what, that's Brandon.
We don't do this on ESPN too, by the way. This is classy treatment.
You got some lifesavers, Brandon?
Here's inside joke. Here's what I think was going on. I'm just guessing, to be clear. No one knows what's in Aaron's head. How does anyone? But here's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing Rodgers was waiting to see what the Steelers did in the draft.
Yeah.
Because if they drafted Shedeur Sanders in the first round at 21, or even if they took him in the fourth round, that might have been Rodgers looking at it saying, you know what, I just don't want to get myself involved in that. They'd be looking for reasons to get him on the field. Now, the draft is come and gone. Free agency is come and gone. They don't have anybody that they're looking to get on the field instead of him. I can see Aaron saying, okay, now I'm good here. This is pure guesswork on my part, but that's what I'm saying.
That's a very reasonable explanation and expectation of how this is going to play out over the next maybe today, maybe over the next week, maybe over the next month. I can totally see that happening.
That's a reasonable hypothesis, and I think it's stupid if they adhered to it.
Because?
Because you still don't have a guarantee that Aaron Rodgers is going to come into that building and save the day. You don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to be if he does decide to play football for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I'm making decisions in this draft, I'm trying to build my team in the best possible way to win, regardless of what Aaron Rodgers decides to do. Because if you make all of these concessions or if you make all of these decisions just for Aaron Rodgers, as we just watched another organization do for the last 2 years, it doesn't guarantee you a championship. It doesn't guarantee you a playoff spot.
Absolutely not. What are you looking at, Steelers?
Win total's 8.5. You bet over, you need 9 wins. You bet under, you need 8 or fewer. I would bet under. 2 paths here. One, Rodgers doesn't show up, which means under 8.5 looks pretty good given their current situation. Or Rodgers does show up, and you get a quarterback who's going to be 42 years old in December. And the last 2 seasons, we saw him start in full. Jets last year and a few years ago with Green Bay. Play was in decline. Offense, both those years, ranked bottom half of the league in EPA. That's a telling indicator. One note on Pittsburgh. Last 5 years, 37, 15-1 in one-score games. That's a testament to Mike Tomlin and how well prepared that team is. But at some point, the math tells us that number is going to drop. And when that number drops off, things are going to go against you in a bad way.
Would it be interesting to see how they had these quarterbacks stacked outside of the guys who went at the very top of the draft.
Are you saying the draft?
Yeah, exactly. Because, not having that second-round pick really changed a lot of the calculus for them as far as how they were going to build this football team and how they could address that position.
They didn't have it because they went out and got a receiver in DK Metcalf. And as Tim Hasselbeck said yesterday on our show, 40-year-old men are not out there in cleats throwing balls to wide receiver if they're not planning on playing. Right? Aaron Rodgers is going to come back and play. All right, indulge us one moment. This is my favorite athlete of all time right this second. I've known Ryan.
Cho con nuôi được không? Cho con. Để cho hôm nào cô xin. Xin chào cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các bạn làm vòng. Vòng hôm nay của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là giấy màu. Bây giờ mình bắt đầu làm. Ôi giời ơi. Mai thứ 5, thứ 6, thứ 7, thứ nhật. Thôi, 3 hôm thôi. 3 hôm ăn nhẹ thôi, ăn nhẹ nhàng, tình cảm thôi để
chào mừng tất cả các bạn quay trở lại với YouTube của mình. Trong video ngày hôm nay mình sẽ vẽ cái xe cụ thể cho các bạn xem nha. Bây giờ mình sẽ tiến hành vừa vẽ luôn.
Nói thế thôi, mình bảo ăn nhẹ nhàng khó lắm.
Và như vậy là mình viên thuốc của mình đã cân đã xong nha. Mình cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video của mình nha.
Mọi người, đây là màu trắng. Đưa ra xem nào. Nè. Thằng này nó biết rồi, là phải gọi câu hả? Sơn. Vậy cậu. Biết rồi.
Mà trên đi ra tiếng ơi.
Sơn. Giờ chị cho hết cái bột để vào, chị khoáng xong chị để cho nó lạnh rồi chị vớt cà phê ra. Hợp lý không? Qua được một tí rồi. Một tí.
Không lỏng nè.
Thế sợ nó